What's up, guys? So in a game that consists of so much failure with a ton of new faces, how are we supposed to remain consistent and get everybody on the same page and lead from the front? So my guest today had 21 new players last year and didn't fall below number 19 in the national polls in the entire season. That is incredible. And this year he'll be tasked with leading 31 new players and a handful of new staff members that we'll talk about here in a little bit as his program looks to win their sixth straight American Athletic Conference regular season title. It is an absolute honor to welcome back to the show head coach for the East Carolina Pirates baseball team, Cliff Godwin. Coach, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Ian. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to talk to the top leaders in the game. Talk to players and coaches that have a great story, have a great impact on the game. Obviously, man, you've had a ton of success as of late. You've had a great career so far. It looks, to me like you're going to be poised for another successful year, man. I'd love to kind of run you through the gauntlet a little bit here on the show. Just talking a little bit about your team, current and past team, your insight here, some advice to the next generation, maybe some advice on the way the game is today. And then I'd love to end with some things about your faith. And obviously, as I've gotten to hear the way that you speak, some of the things you talk about and how you talk about them, it's extremely, I'm extremely grateful. And so I've picked up a lot of things from you and how you go about your business, how you teach, how you lead, man. So I'm excited to jump into it today. But first, man, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your team. So like we talked about, man, you have a ton of new faces this year. Where are you guys at right now as we're kind of moving into the heart of September, as we're moving into fall, man? What is life like right now for ECU baseball?
Well, that's pretty hectic. I mean, somebody was asking to schedule a meeting with me, and I said, I know this is, sounds crazy for the outside person, but this time of the year is more busy, more crazy. It always has been, but especially when you have to hire a new ops guy, a new strength coach, a new athletic trainer, a new academic advisor, which we've got them all hired, but the athletic trainer hasn't started yet. So our guys have had, 3 or 4 people, which those people are being overworked because they're just taking on extra strain because we don't have somebody. Same thing with an academic advisor. We have 2 football academic advisors that are just helping with us, which you can imagine being a football academic advisor and then trying to help out with baseball. It's just a lot. So it's a lot of newness for sure. But the players, for the most part, have been awesome. The 31 new players. I said this in an interview yesterday, and I listened to Ed Milet and John Gordon. It was probably 2 years ago. And, Ed Milet, who is a very, very successful entrepreneur, also has a great podcast talking about when he started praying about business decisions and people, things got better for him. So this summer, I prayed that we just brought the right people into our organization. Listen to what I said, people, not the hardest thrower, not the guy that hits the ball the farthest, but the right people, because East Carolina is not for everybody. And I've probably learned that over the past couple of years more so than any other time in my career, because obviously college athletics has changed a lot. And, the stuff I talk about, a lot of people don't believe in. I know you do. And I know the people that I'm close with, but it's about people, man. It ain't about the brick and mortar. It's not about how hard you throw. Yeah, you can go sign a first rounder, then pay him a lot of money. And yeah, he's going to be good individually. But if you're not writing the biggest checks, then how are you going to have a successful organization? So we've got to make sure we have the right people. And I just use Trey Savage for an example. He was on the collegiate national team in the summer of 2023. I was on the staff in 22. I heard the conversations that guys were having with Paul Skeens and others about the portal and where they were going to go. And Trey never flinched. And that's because he was, of course, raised in a really, really good family that, had the values that align with East Carolina baseball. I'm not saying that the values that other people have are not right. They just don't align with ECU baseball. We believe in hard work, dedication, commitment, responsibility, accountability, to name a few. And he could have went to the portal and got $200,000 to $400,000. And I think he made $10,000 last year. And he's out of state. But as I told the incoming freshmen and junior college guys, they come in for summer school and their parents. And the first slide I showed was trust in that meeting before they started summer school. and define that. And then I said, hey, if you're looking to get rich off NIL, you should walk out the door right now, because that's not what we're here about. If you're looking to become the best baseball player you possibly can be, the best person you possibly can be, and win championships, then you're in the right place. And then if your talent allows you to be a traded savage, then you get signed for over $4 million, which, as you know, you've played the game a long time, and you know that doesn't happen for many people. I know I was not that talented. I can say this and you had a cup of coffee in the big leagues, but you weren't that talented either, but you were able to grind and to make it. So those are the things that are important to me. And, you know, I've done a better job managing my own mental headspace when guys want to leave our program. It just wasn't a good fit for them. So when they tell me they're leaving, sounds good. Wish you the best of luck, move on. And we're going to bring the right people into our organization.
What's going on, everybody? We as baseball players, we as athletes, we all have something in common that we all share with one another. At some point, our careers are going to come to an end, whether we play 15 years in the league or whether we don't make it past high school or college. This is called the Money Playbook. So this teaches financial concepts for student athletes, for professional athletes. It's got a bunch of financial concepts in there that I didn't learn until I was done playing. Go on over to Amazon and check it out. It's called the Money Playbook. It's written by Mark Tepper, who is an NFLPA registered investment advisor. So he has worked with a plethora of professional athletes. Like I said, go to Amazon. We'll leave the link in the bio and the description of this episode. It's a must-have. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Talking about bringing in the right people to your organization. Obviously, we alluded to bringing in 31 new players, a bunch of new faces, some that haven't even started yet. So you're going to have these influx of new faces and, you know, returning guys, some veterans, man. What's going to be the strategy for blending these guys together, you know, and producing wins?
Well, I think it's really been a really good group so far as blending together, because we have some good human beings. There hasn't, to this point, now we haven't played a game. I hadn't written a starting lineup yet, but, you know, it hasn't been, you know, a lot of selfishness. We've been working really hard. You know, we tell our guys all the time that championships are won in the fall and the winter, not the spring. And that's been an MO of ours since I've been a head coach, and we work hard in the fall. So then the spring, we get to go play recess when the games happen. You know, of course, we have information and scouting reports and stuff, but we want our guys to go out and play freely. I tell people all the time, I don't yell at anybody for giving up a home run, for striking out, for making an error, because nobody's trying to do that. Now, if you're not playing hard, you got bad body language, that's when Coach Godwin gets in red lights. But we focus on the things that you can control. I know that's cliche, but I know I wasn't trying to strike out when I struck out. So why would you have bad body language as a third base coach? Because nobody's trying to, you know, strike out when they're hitting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. I was always told, kind of coming up, I learned this towards the end of my career, where, you know, managers that I have a different manager every year with every level that I progress, or, you know, you get demoted, whatever the case is. It's like everybody's got different styles of teaching. Everybody's got different styles of leading, of coaching, but, you know, the physical mistakes, the physical errors you can live with. Just like you said, man, no one's trying to go out there and boot a ball, right? But it's maybe the mental ones, you know, the attitude, the effort. That's the stuff that we need to command, that we need to coach, man. I love that. Fires me up here and you talk about that, man. So with all of these new staff, all these new players coming in, man, are there particular, you know, qualities or skills that you're looking forward to, you know, seeing complement or align with your team that you got this year?
Well, we've got to continue to just hammer home what our standards are in every area. You know, one thing with a lot of new guys, and they've done a pretty good job, but academically, if you miss an assignment, then the rule in our program is just the next day during practice, you go to study hall. I said miss an assignment, and say do bad on a test, or, you know, not do as well as you want to on a quiz. But, you know, that's your responsibility. And, you know, that's my job, to make sure that we're holding guys accountable. And it doesn't matter if you're the bullpen catcher or you're Alec Burleson, who is in the big leagues, you're still going to be held to that standard, because that's the only way you can have consistent culture within your program.
Yeah, I just was talking about this on the 9-hole newsletter this past week, where, man, I learned that in the back end of my career. The older that I got, the more accountability that needs to be had, not just from the coaches and the coaching staff and the manager down, but, you know, the leaders on the team. Everybody can hold people accountable, regardless of kind of, you know, what your situation or role you play on the team. I think that's important, especially, man, when we talk about locker rooms like yourselves. You had mentioned, these players aren't on their phones in the locker rooms, right? They're they're integrating with each other. They're talking to each other. They're getting to know one another, man. I think that's fantastic when we talk about leadership, when we talk about, blending together, right? You just won 5 straight AACs, right? So we're hoping you get the 6th regular season title. Man, how are you going to do that, right? These guys are all on the same page. They're playing together as one unit. I mean, you look at, success leaves breadcrumbs, right? So we could talk about these things with, what you do in the locker room, how you're commanding your guys on and off the field with study hall, and setting the standard. I mean, that's the breadcrumbs right there. You had mentioned Ed Milet opening up here. I love it. His stuff, talking about business, his faith, his principles and stuff helped me start my business. So I love that. I love Ed Milet. I love what he stands for. Love what he talks about, man. Big time, influential. I love that. Yeah, fires me up. Had to throw that in there, man. Had to
No,
throw it
I
in there.
appreciate that. That's a little God moment right there. I mean, I didn't know that you knew or you followed Ed Milet. I shouldn't say
Yeah,
no, but
I
if
subscribe
you
to
ever
him.
if you ever get in contact with him, I'd love to communicate with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll reach out to him. I'll let him know.
Yeah,
I'll let him know,
yeah,
man. That's fantastic. So obviously we had talked about this prior. Everybody, that's a fan of ECU baseball, a fan of college sports, knows about Parker Bird's story. It's fantastic. It's incredible. Had a couple ABs this year, right? First AB walked, man. He became the first player, to get on the field, play in competition with a prosthetic leg. It's amazing. You've alluded to his leadership qualities as well. I think we were just talking about, you just did a segment on the Pirate Radio TV, I believe, one of the last days, man. You had alluded to, Parker kind of being kind of like Inky Johnson a little bit with his leadership qualities. And I got a chance to listen to Inky Johnson speak in Cubs spring training. And I haven't really been touched, by someone's words in person like that before. It's incredible, man. What kind of impact is Parker Bird going to have this year with that leadership quality, man? What is he doing to command, these guys on and off the field and help lead the team?
Well, I think, when the injury first happened, obviously there was a lot of surgeries. There was a lot of things going on. I mean, he didn't get his first prosthetic until Christmas of 2022. And just remember Jeff, his dad, texted me and going, man, what a Christmas present. And then you fast forward to the spring and he got more of an athletic prosthetic than last spring, a year later. And because, I'm around him, we're around him every single day, the improvements are so microscopic that you don't even realize how much better he's getting to be able to move, to be able to hit, all those things. And so last spring, his dad sent me a video from the year before because every so often they have to, readjust the prosthetic. He's getting stronger. He's moving better, all those things. And so he flies up to Chicago, the Challenge Athletes Foundation, sponsors that. I think he's going to be on MLB Network next Wednesday and talking about that. But his dad sent me a video from 2022. I'm like, oh my God, man, like how far he's come in 1 year.
It's incredible.
It's amazing. And now he's been able to, handle all this stuff a lot better. Classes. I mean, I treat him just like one of our players to a default. Sometimes I kind of feel bad about it, but that's the way he wants to be treated. But now he's able to take on more of a leadership role within our team. And we just had Chris Howell, who is a Navy SEAL, not active, but he's been working with our program since 2017. And he came in this past weekend and we actually did something for the first time and asked the guys who wanted to lead this week. And so you had like 14 guys stand up and then we only needed 4. So they had to articulate in 30 seconds, why should you be chosen to lead in front of their teammates? It was pretty cool. But Parker Bird was one of the 4. And not that the other 3 did bad, but Parker Bird, in my opinion, is emerging as a guy that can stand up in front of the team. And of course has the utmost respect from his teammates because what he has to go through on a daily basis. And I even told him, I was like, hey man, you pretty much can say whatever you want to, and they're going to fall in line because nobody's going to have confrontation with Parker Bird. And I said, if they do, then you've probably got the entire locker room ready to kick that dude's tail because he's not falling in line and Parker Bird told him to. So I think he's got a chance to be an unbelievable leader. And then obviously what he does here, in my opinion, is awesome, but it's very minimal what he's doing for other people all over the world. I mean, that guy has inspired people to keep fighting that have, had limbs that have been amputated, whether it's been in a military situation. I mean, pretty much every road game we would go to last year, there would be somebody that was an amputee to see Parker Bird. We go to Old Dominion, and I forget the young man's name. He's about 12, but I know he had battled cancer and he had lost his leg. So he had just gotten a prosthetic, and he threw out the first pitch to Parker Bird at Old Dominion, our second midweek game. So when you talk about the impact he's having, and look, I'm one that has fell short many times as being on a platform that could have used my platform in a very positive way and getting caught up with my identity as a head coach or a successful, recruiting coordinator and playing in the College World Series or, coaching in the College World Series and never got the opportunity to play in the College World Series as an assistant coach. And, there's things that are way more important, man. People are going to remember how you made them feel. They're not going to remember, what you paid them. People don't quit their jobs. They quit their bosses. One of my best friends told me that about 3 months ago. And I was like, man, that is actually just unbelievable stuff because that's reality. If people feel appreciated in what they're doing in the organization, whether they're getting rich or not, they're going to stay there a lot longer. I'm not saying they're going to stay there for the rest of their career, but they're going to stay there a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. So this past year, man, 2024, sixth straight 40-win campaign. So you brought out a 46-17 record with a plethora of new faces, right? We talked about the theme of consistency, talked about the theme of leadership. 6 players drafted, 4 in the top 10 rounds, which happens to be a program record. You hosted your 5th regional in 6 seasons. In your mind, how do you think the 2024 year went as a head coach, as having your standard of excellence? How do you think it went?
I think it went, great. And unless you win the last game and you're holding up the big trophy in the national championship, Coach Bianco used to always tell me this, then you're disappointed. I would tell you that this was probably the hardest loss of my head coaching career because I felt like our guys deserved better. I really liked our team. I thought it was the most connected team that we had here at East Carolina. Of course, we had some injuries on the mound from some key guys, and we were a different team the past quarter of the year, but our guys just grinded and fought to the end, and we fell up short. But, when you're injured, especially those very, very small details, they matter. And maybe I could have done a tick better job with making sure everybody was bought in there at the end. But you self-evaluate. Now, I would say overall for what our guys do in the classroom, Carter Cunningham raised over $50,000 for the Children's Hospital. I had nothing to do with it. He comes in my office before he's going home for Christmas break, and it's like, Coach, I want to do something to give back to the community. He says, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to have an idea. And he comes back and he says, Coach, I want to do homers that help. And I want to make sure the money goes directly to the families, not to some, organization. And they're, I want to make sure. He goes, I'm going to get 33 home game sponsors. They're going to put $300 up front. And then for every home run we hit that game, it's another $100. I said, well, you got your first sponsor right here. I got game 1. I got off pretty easy. We scored 16 runs, but we only hit 1 home run. So I only had to get 400. And then he would also take guys over to the Children's Hospital every other Monday. Well, now he's passed that along to Parker Bird and Dixon Williams, and they're doing that. Carter also, I don't force religion or faith on any of our guys, but he came to me in the fall and said, can we have a team Bible study for guys that want to do it? Can we use the team room? And I go, absolutely. We have SportWorks, which our guys have the opportunity every Monday night in the fall to get a meal. And then we have 2 team chaplains, Jamin Shelby and Webb Tyndall, who have been working with our program for, I think, about 3 years. And they're awesome. They're part of our staff. They get championship rings too. They're pouring into our people. They're sacrificing their time on a Monday night away from their families to pour into our people. So we got to make sure we take care of those guys. But those are the things that are going to matter, down the road. And I know, people are very critical of me, especially people that don't know me that well. And so when you've been super successful head coach, but you hadn't taken your team to play in the College World Series, well, I would very, say, hey, man, what teams that are not in the P4 have been as consistent as us on and off the field? I tell our guys all the time, no, we have not won a national championship, but nobody does it better on and off the field than we do. And I'm a firm believer that's a knock against anybody else, but for what we're trying to create and develop men to go into society and help society be a better place, I would say we're doing it at a pretty high level. And that's not me. It takes a village to be able to do that. And I do a lot of stuff now I don't enjoy because I'm having to be more of a CEO and a CFO and a psychologist than a hitting coach and a catching coach. I mean, I actually worked with 2 of our players in the cages yesterday, and man, I was like, God, this is awesome, man. I'm back in the freaking roots, man. Like this is where I like grew up, coaching hitters and stuff. And I need to do more stuff like that for my mental headspace because some of the other stuff wears on me. But when our kids, have something going on, and the unique thing about 31 players, they all have different personality. They all got different stories. And we all have our incoming guys read Coaching Third, which is the story about Coach LeClaire. And they will get up in front of the team and they'll talk for 2 minutes about what they got out of the book. And we have a young man on our team, and I won't tell you his name, but I told a story to our team now. He has been on our team. He wasn't here in summer school. He's been on our team probably 2 weeks at the time. And he stands up and goes, hey, my freshman year, we actually played East Carolina in the fall. I didn't pitch. And, I was pissed off. And so I took a picture with my brother right here at East Carolina, but I wasn't smiling in the picture. That's the last picture I took with my brother before he committed suicide.
Wow.
And you talk about powerful stuff, man, and understanding your teammates and being vulnerable. Like that's how you get connected. And, his former coach who I'm best friends with had told me, hey, man, this young man needs ECU. He needs to be around people that are going to love on him. And I'm just so proud of him. Obviously, there's days he struggles and he's not perfect like none of us are. But those are the guys that it really, warms my heart that we get a chance because, he's a pitcher. Coach Knight pours into him, but all our staff does. And that's the stuff that really has been more important to me than, people want to evaluate me and say, hey, you're a bad head coach because you've never taken a team to play in the College World Series. Then do I struggle with it from the human side of things and what the world wants you to do? Of course. But hey, the big man up top is not going to say, hey, Cliff, you didn't win enough games. He's going to say, hey, man, you helped these young men and provided them an opportunity to have a platform and to learn more about Jesus. And that's the important part.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I personally just seeing, some of your interviews, some of the stuff that you talk about, man, I when you get a little emotional talking about your players, talking about your teams, talking about the impact that you have on them, that they have on you, I think that's awesome. You don't see a lot of that today. I think, there's a lot of emotion that's played in today's game that could be deemed not great, right? Could be deemed, showy. Man, I love when somebody's authentic, shows emotion, something that I'm working on and trying to like bring about, man. Love what you're doing. Love what you're about. Love how you lead, Coach. Appreciate your time, man. Couple more questions I got.
Let me tell you one story about Carter Cunningham. He's playing professional baseball with the Blue Jays, and I talked to him 2 Sunday nights ago, and we talked for a while. And I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, Coach, like it's a big change, man. You go from playing in front of 6,500 people, and everybody's pulling for one another, and now you're in low A and it's hot and it's a grind, and you've got some teammates that don't want you to play well because you might take their spot. And I said, Carter, you got a great platform, man. I know it's a change. I said, but how about if you walk up to the guy that is, not happy when you get a hit, and when he smokes a ball, you go dap him up. I said, now that takes a lot, dude, because, you talk about relationships, and I heard Inky Johnson say this with Ed Milet, but most people, including myself, it's conditional. If Ian treats me bad, then I'm not going to treat Ian back good. Well, that's not Jesus, which, hey, look, I'm not great at that. So don't think I'm preaching to people that I do a great job at that. I said, but if you dap that dude, say, hey, man, good swing, dude. Way to smoke that. He's going to look and be like, that dude's crazy. But if you keep doing it, he's going to go, why is this guy so much different? And that might provide you a platform to go, well, that's what Jesus would do, man. I'm just trying to be like Jesus. And so we had that conversation. He said, Coach, I appreciate it, but Carter Cunningham made me better, dude. I mean, that dude made me more better. I don't know if that's correct English, but then I made him better as a baseball player. I can tell you that he made me a better coach by being in our program.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Being able to be tied long-term to the program and have hands in each other's development. Yeah, it's incredible, man. It's incredible. It's obviously the culture that you're building over there, man. I see the social media pages, the Instagram pages on game day. You guys are, packed, selling out. You guys are setting, attendance records. It's like, man, these guys are crazy. This whole culture that you've built over there, that your program has, it's crazy in the best way possible. It's amazing. It looks like there's so much electricity around the program, man. It's an absolute honor to have, a man of your character back on here. So right now in the game, there's a bunch of uncertainty, bunch of rule changes, man. Obviously, they talked about roster size going to be impacted here moving forward a little bit. There's so much uncertainty, right? There's so many moving parts, man. What do you got? What's your take on the state of today's game? What's your take on the transfer portal? What's your take on, people chasing the NIL money? I know we talked a little bit about Trey not chasing the low-hanging fruit, leaving, going somewhere else, maybe, making $100,000 or two, whatever that is, right? And kind of staying true to the process, man. What is your take on the state of today's game?
I mean, I think overall, I don't think it's just baseball. It's just college athletics. I don't think we're setting up our young people to be successful in life, because in what world can you transfer jobs, every year and have another job? Coach Kevin McMullen, Coach Mack, one of my mentors who coached me at East Carolina for 2 years. He's the associate head coach at UVA. He told me one time when I was frustrated in my coaching career, he goes, "It's way easier to get a job when you have one than when you don't have one." And I was like, man, that's a pretty great advice, and that was 15, 20 years ago. But I don't think that is what we're developing within college athletics. Now, I think the NCAA's hands are turned. I mean, I just saw that an article pop on ESPN. I didn't even read it because it put me in red lights, and a couple athletes, I think it was Robinson from Michigan and somebody else, and I don't even remember. I remember them playing football at Michigan, but how many years ago? I was like, well, should I, sue the NCAA and say, hey, back in 2001, my senior year, I hit 15 home runs. Can you guys pay me for my name, image, and likeness? Like, when does it stop? Because the NCAA, at least I heard, last year spent $1 million on litigation every week. So they are just throwing their hands up and going, hey, look, we're just trying not to get sued. So you colleges and universities, y'all handle this, which
figure it out.
Yeah, they're figured out basically. But a lot was made, and this was 2 months ago. I mean, Jeff Palumbo, my recruiting coordinator, walks in and it's like, hey, how are we going to handle August 1st? It's going to a roster. Well, it still hasn't happened. And they don't know if it's going to happen in January when the court's supposed to rule on it. So what our motto has been, and I told our staff this and I told our players this, is win today. What's important now? Now, what's important now in my world versus one of our players is much different. But just dominate your day. I know that's cliche, but if we're out here looking worried, because I don't know, I tell recruits, I go, if anybody's told you an absolute of what it's going to look like next fall, you should run the other way, because they don't know. I don't even know if we know what it's going to look like in 2 falls from now, because our AD told me, and I don't know what sport it was, but if they went to the roster limitation in one sport in Division I, right now there'd be 1,800 student athletes that did not have an opportunity to play that sport, whatever that sport was. So now that's another lawsuit for the NCAA. So I just think there's a lot of uncertainty. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not on social media a lot. I have to have our staff, like if one of our players does something good, to send it to me. Even like the Pirate Radio thing I put out on social media, my director of player development sent to me. It's like, hey, when it goes out, send it to me, and then I'll get it out on social media to promote Inky Johnson. And it's helped with me. I don't have any idea about, the politics that's going on in the world. I don't care. Like, hey, man, I'll vote. But at the end of the day, I need to focus on leading these young men and what we're doing every day. And then if we do that, then we'll have success in the spring. We're going to develop young men. They'll move on to, be better people, and hopefully they're great baseball players along the way. But at the end of the day, as you know, as I tell everybody, they're going to tell you at some point in time you can't play anymore. For me, it was a lot earlier than Alec Burleson, but they're going to tell Burley at some point in time, hey, man, we appreciate you, but hey, time's over. So now what are you going to do the rest of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way that I was looking at it, man. I feel the same way you do. I have the same opinion on the matter as you do. as do some of the coaches that I've been talking to on the show, especially recently. I would have loved to have potentially transferred away from Little Wagner College to chase, go into an NC State or go into a Hawaii, right? Or go into one of these big schools that kicked our butts when we went out there to go play them early on in the season, right? But I was hindered by doing that and kind of, chasing, leaving, going somewhere else, and running from any type of adversity because of the transfer rules. Whereas now it's like, man, I'm not sure if we're setting these young men up to overcome trials and tribulations, overcome things the hard way, maybe with some hard work, dedication, sacrifice, all that stuff. I understand the opportunities, man. I get it. Of course, I get it.
And I think there's some good stories in there too as well. But because we have some kids that have come from some bigger schools probably for the first time, and they wanted more opportunity. I get it. One guy, Brett Antolik from Texas A&M, I've had a pleasure to be around him. I know he's got good stuff. I don't know how he's going to be, but like the human being, we recruited him in high school. We offered him like his sophomore year. He, chose another school. And when I did a Zoom with his mom, she's like, I recorded that Zoom. That's kind of scary because I didn't know she was recording the Zoom. So I guess I did okay. But I go, well, hey, that's awesome. I don't have to go through my whole spiel then and tell you what you're getting into at East Carolina. And but there's good stories like that. But the stories you don't hear about are the kids that left a smaller school at times, and they're paid, money. Now, a lot of schools, but they went to the highest bidder, and it was their junior year. And then they did not get drafted or did not get the money that they thought they would if they just stayed at the smaller school and dominated and didn't pitch as much or didn't play as much. Well, you actually lost money in the draft, which you wanted to play professional baseball, but you ran for the quick monetary value right now, grab that, and then now you didn't get drafted, or you didn't get drafted where you thought you should because you didn't play as much. That's very short-sighted. And then the other thing is, okay, so your human nature, man, you're always trying to freaking our minds are built, hey, take the easy way. That's where our minds naturally go to. So when you're a husband and something goes wrong with your family, a debt, like you still have to go to work, man. Like you have to work to support your family. Are you just going to run because it becomes hard? And things like that. I just think anything that we're just giving them an easy way out all the time. I'm okay with 1 year, but now we can do it anytime.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to commit to them for 4 years, but they're only committing to us for a 6-month window or a year. I mean, what job can you say, Ian, okay, look, man, you commit to me for 1, I'm committing to you for 5. There's not a job in the country that you can sign up for like that. So I just think we're setting them up for failure once athletics are over. I'm not against people making money on their name, image, likeness, but the way the rule was intended for is not what we're doing. We're just paying players for play, and that's not legal, but that's what is happening in our sports world in college athletics. So, and I don't know if we can get our arms back around it.
Yep. I just had 14-year veteran in Major League Baseball, Willie Bloomquist, head coach, Arizona State, talking about the same types of things that you're talking about, making the same points. And I cannot agree more with what you're saying, Coach. I appreciate that. So, man, I got 2 more questions for you. One is from the audience. So we've spoken, obviously, about your faith and the impact that it's had on your coaching philosophies, how you handle certain situations, how you go about preparing for situations. We talked about, how you'll pray to, maybe before a meeting or any type of, interaction where it's like, hey, I'm just trying to say the words that God's trying to get me to say, right? I love that. So what is your favorite Bible verse right now?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not very good at Bible verses. So that's one thing I want to work on. But probably Romans 8:28, and I'm going to paraphrase it here. But, God promises that all things will work for good. That doesn't mean that everything work together for good. Doesn't mean that everything in Cliff Godwin's life individually is going to work out perfectly. That's not what the verse says. It says, now think about all the people that are on this planet. Everything's going to work together for good. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be negatively impacted or you're not going to be negatively impacted. I was talking to the young man that his brother committed suicide. And I said, what God does, man. So, and I know that this is very hard right now, like that you're still navigating all this stuff mentally, and the fact that you're, going to get help and you're processing these things. There's going to be somebody that comes into your life. And I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow, 2 years from now, it could be 10 years from now, that is going to have gone through what you went through, and you're going to be the angel for that person to help them. And I really believe that God puts people in your life that are angels on earth. Mike, man, one of the best mentors I've ever had, walks into my office a week after the season was canceled during COVID. And I knew who Mike was. He's a donor. But to walk in and drop a John Maxwell Leadership Bible on my desk and say, hey, look, the conversation was longer than this, but hey, look, God put on my heart that you were going to be struggling with this. And hey, I just got you this John Maxwell Leadership Bible. If you need an accountability partner. And we just started this connection. Well, Mike, man, is one reason, as there is a few, that I'm still sitting here on this earth. I can tell you that, for some of the stuff I went through. But at that time, I was fine. I was like, hey, on to the next thing, man. Season's canceled. Guys got to do good in school. And whenever they tell me that they can come back, we'll get them back here and we'll start rocking and rolling. But I was not thinking Mike man was going to be an angel on this earth for me, as there's been a lot. But I think people miss the boat with that, because there's going to be people that God puts into your life, and you might not need them at that time, but you'll need them at some point in time. And I really think that's why some things happen bad to us individually, because you're going to save somebody else when they're going through a tough time.
Amen, man. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I love it. I don't even have anything to like follow up with that. I absolutely love it. All of it. Last question I got for you, Coach. This is a fan question. So you're obviously somebody that has guided, many student athletes, many young men throughout their college careers. And, we've talked about the success you've had. What do you think are the most important lessons you hope your players take away from their time with you, both on and off the field?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. If I just want them to know that I love them. I'm not great at that. I wasn't the lovey-dovey physical touch guy. Then you had COVID and we're having to like dap everybody up. I couldn't even like hug guys if I wanted to, so that threw a wrench into it. But, just really trying to pour into the thing I've gotten better is pour into the guys that actually want to lead, want to learn more about their faith. I try to spend time. The easiest way to describe it, and I'm kind of getting off the question, I guess, is, you can't touch everybody in a locker room the same way that you are able to have a relationship with Carter Cunningham or guys that have been in the program 4 or 5 years, like a Joey Barini and a Justin Wilcoxon. But you not that I go, hey, man, you guys are disciples, but if you pour into those guys, then they can go touch other guys in the locker room. But I hope they know that I love them, that if something goes bad in their life, that they can call me and I will help them anyway. That's the biggest thing I hope they know. And, hopefully, probably my point of the whole thing is I try to tell them, hey, man, just because you got 1,000 Instagram followers doesn't mean that you're true friends. You need to have a close circle. True friends are when it's going to inconvenience them, but you're in a bind, they're going to come help you. I've got a former teammate, and he works at East Carolina. I probably see him 3 times a year, Brad Simons. Nobody probably listening to this podcast is going to know who Brad Simons is. But if I call that dude tomorrow, I'm in California and something's bad, he's going to drop everything that he's doing and go to California and figure out how he can help me out. And I'm going to do the same thing, because that was the commitment that we had to one another when we were teammates here at East Carolina. And there's probably 10 or 12 guys that were on that team that I could do the same thing. I mean, We've got a WhatsApp group called the Boom Boom Room, and there's 7 of us in it. It's been there for 10 years. Back when I was at Ole Miss, over 10 years, we started it. And we almost have a message in there every day about something. And those guys would jump in front of a car. I mean, Eric Backus is in there, head coach at Clemson. Nick Schnabel's in there. Bryant Ward, the associate head coach at UCLA. Chad Tracy, who is in the East Carolina Hall of Fame, that played in the big leagues. John Williamson's in the ECU Hall of Fame, and then Garrett Blackwater, who played basketball here at East Carolina, who just hung out with us more than he did basketball players and lived with us, one of our roommates. But those are the guys in there. And if I'm in a bind, dude, those guys are going to, help me out.
I love that. That's the culture that, you've been able to create. You're consistently creating, and that's how you lead from the front. That's how you remain consistent over all these years. Coach, I'm so grateful for your time, man. Thank you for, let me run you through the gauntlet. Thank you for sticking around before we went live. I took about 10, 15 minutes of your time trying to figure out this new platform. I want to thank you so much, Coach. Again, Cliff Godwin, head coach, East Carolina. Coach, you the man. Looking forward to seeing you kill it again this year, man.
Thanks, Ian. You got to come to Greenville, man. We got to freaking let you see this environment, dude.
I'll be there this year.
Sounds
Coach.
Good.
I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Coach, thank you again for your time, man.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.